What's up? What's up? I am T, and I want to welcome you to the V Spot. It's been a while, but we're here, and I'm super excited. What is the V Spot? The V Spot is the virgin community. It is an online community for virgins and people who are abstaining from sex while believing God for marriage and companionship. So it is a Christian-based online community. Like I said, it's been a while, but I am here. I'm here. Again, my name is T, and I'm happy to be here today. All right, I would typically do like girl chats and different discussions, um, things surrounding relationships, virginity, waiting, encouraging people, women on how to wait when abstaining from sex or while being a virgin. Yeah, so that's what I do. And today I want to do a bit of a story time. So it won't be a girl chat necessarily, but it's going to be a story time about how, about my experience with knowing or who, believing that I knew who I would marry. I don't know how to put it, but I don't want to call it God showed me my husband because I don't think that God showed me. I just believe that there were things that happened in the story that led me to believe that this was somebody that God was kind of put me in the direction of, or putting us in the direction of each other. Either way it go, I'm just gonna label this God showed me my husband, and I'm gonna give you the story, and I'm gonna give you what I learned. I love to do this because look, if you can learn from my mistakes, then why not? Okay, why not share? First of all, just a sidebar. Can we get into this haircut? Haircut, haircut. Ah, yes, y'all. Now, if you've seen any of the previous girl chats, I had locks, okay? Locks. But your girl is a blonde baddie. You feel me? Okay. Breakouts and all that I'm recovering from. A blonde baddie. I wanted this color for a very long time, and I tried it myself when I had locks, and it didn't work out so well. The color was cute, but it wasn't this. And so I'm super excited. I did the big chop before. I started growing locks in 2017, and so by just last week, they were like down my back, down to my butt. But I want to say about 2011 or so. I was fairly young, not even 2011 because I had hair. I had a lot of hair actually. Um, I was young though. Years ago, I cut all my hair off. All my hair. Okay. It was probably lower than this, babe. But I almost had like a bald fade. Like the barber really gave me like a buzz cut because he was a guy. This time I went to a lady who is a female barber. And so she kind of knew how to keep it real femme. Um, but I did it before. And so this time I always feel, not always, I mean, bad girls have bad days as well. But I typically, I'm very secure as a woman. I'm very confident in my uniqueness, in my own personal style. I love myself. I'm beautiful, top tier. Okay. But this, I think just not, it's not even the cut, it's not the color. Not having hair in general is just one less thing to worry about. Okay. And so I feel like I completely understand why the rich aunties cut all their hair off and they go blonde. I get it. Okay. I feel like my confidence went to a whole nother level. I feel very like relaxed. I just feel free. I feel content. So I love it. Okay. So I'm here for it. I'm gonna try to keep it this short as long as possible. I'm gonna try to keep this color as long as possible. I want to play with different colors for the fall and the winter. So I see a lot of girls doing the ginger thing. So I figure, when people start doing you just start doing something else. Okay. But to get back to the story, I want to talk about my experience with, you know, God showing me my husband. I'll just say that. Because I feel like this happens to a lot more women than people realize. I think in the past couple of years, I've been seeing more and more videos on YouTube where women are coming out and they're sharing their stories about um, God showing them who they would marry. Obviously, these type of things have different outcomes, right? So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But nonetheless, women, there are women who have had this type of experience. I don't think that people realize how often it occurs, but also I don't think that women come out about it as much because in the church, specifically in the church, and you only hear about this from people who I think either believe in God or typically I see it from women who are like Christian and in church. Um, but you in church, men always preach that, he who finds a wife, right? Just like religious people typically do, they take a scripture and they run with it. One old bishop teaches it, and then everybody kind of catch on. Your favorite preacher say something. People don't ask questions; they just kind of run with stuff out of context. But they always say like, the man's gonna know who his wife is. Um, and and then in the secular world, the narrative is if he wants you, he'll come and get you. So it's just kind of like the man's gonna know the man, the man, the man. But yeah, the women, the intuitive part of a woman actually speaks to a woman about these type of things. And so there are a lot of women who know who their husbands are going to be before the man realizes that that's their wife. And then sometimes it happens that way. And then there are some times where the woman, believes that she knows that this is her husband, and it may not go that way. And so we're going to get into all of that. So I'm going to tell my experience, okay, my experience, and I'm not going to be as detailed because I want to protect the person. I don't know why I be protecting people because people drag me, baby, drag, okay, dragging. People would drag. I have been dragged, honey, and still protect people. It's so crazy. Anyway, um, yeah, so I'm gonna get into my story, but I'm also what I'm gonna give you, right? Because this has an end result. I'm gonna give you the meat of the story. I'm gonna tell you what I believe I did wrong so that you don't make the same mistakes. At the end, I want to tell you what I believe you should do. All right, in this type of scenario. Okay, so let's time travel. Are you with me? Okay, so let's say okay, so there's this guy and I want to say that I grew up around him, but from the time I was about 21 or so, um we would just kind of be around in the same place at the same time. So when he first started coming around, I felt like he was cute, he's attractive, but I also thought he was very mean. And so that kind of went on for years. And then being in like proximity to some degree, you see a person in passing, it's like, oh, what's up? A little giggle here and there, da da da. So it started out like that. One day, I saw him, and even though I always thought he was attractive, I thought he was mean. One particular day, I looked at him and I thought, oh my God, like he reminds me of me. And I saw myself in him in the sense that how he related to God reminded me of me. How he would worship the Lord reminded me of myself. So I thought. Um, but he was like the first guy that I was able to look at and be like, oh my God, like I can see me in him. So for after that, I realized then like I like him. Like I got a crush on him. I like him. Like I'm feeling him. So from that point on, I would start to, and I'm just gonna be. When I tell you I'm gonna be transparent, I'm putting myself out here. Um, I would start to just kind of like imagine, like, okay, I wonder what it would be like to kind of be around him outside of like this particular context. So I remember being downtown in Chicago. on the train and just kind of thinking like, it would be cool if one day we could like, pass by each other. Y'all, I gotta brush my hair so I can get waves. So if I'm brushing my hair, I'm trying to like solidify waves. Like this is a part of the process of like what you need to do to get waves. So I got to keep this in my hand. I should be brushing my hair as I speak. I mean, it's story time, get your popcorn, get your drink, but I'm gonna brush my hair. Um, okay, so I hope it's not loud, like a crunchy sound in the background. But I would like just imagine like, oh, okay, if I'm like, what if I'm downtown one day and like we're passing by, like that would be crazy, right? Fast forward to, some years later, I had a dream about him and I ended up telling him the dream and I ended up interpreting the dream. And so in the meantime, my personal life, I was trying to get back into school and I was just having a hard time with like funding, finding like a school to go to, how I was going to commute back and forth to school because I lived some ways away from where my school was. Um, so I told him about the dream, and in the midst of like talking about the dream, I found out that he worked at a school, a college, and it happened to be the college that I was trying to get into. So, um, yeah, as we're talking, and I found out like, he worked at this school. I had to keep my cool in front of him, but inside of myself, I'm thinking like, oh my God, he works. That's the school I'm trying to get into. So, um, at the time, after that conversation, what seemed impossible after we had that conversation, it felt very possible. I remember having this like epiphany, like, oh my God, I can go to school. Like, I think I know how this can happen. So I ended up like going to school, and what I imagined like years before that ended up being like a very real reality. Like we ended up being in the same place at the same time, just kind of in proximity to each other outside of the normal context. So now I like Buddy. Um, I like him. And it wasn't like oh, I like him like this my husband type of thing. It was just like, man, I really like, if only. I think at the time I kind of looked at him like, man, that would be nice. It just felt like something that was very impossible. It felt like something that was way out of my league because I struggled a lot in my 20s. Like, I'm talking about couch to floor, um, trying to find a job, trying to finish school. Like, I had a lot going on. So, I never kind of felt like the type of person that was a candidate for marriage because I didn't have my life together. So I never looked at him like, oh my God, that's my husband, because I just felt like, I was unqualified. But so anyway, we end up in the same place at the same time, like I imagined years before. And there were just things like there would just be so many things that were just kind of like, oh my God, like this would be crazy. Um, like how in the movies where people are like talking and they walk away from each other and they turn around and they look back at each other. That's supposed to be like super romantic. Like there was just stuff that happened that kind of made me feel like, what if God is like putting us in front of each other? Like, what if we're supposed to like be with each other? So that made me go and have a conversation with the Lord, like, hey God, I've always like kind of had a crush on him, but I never felt like I was enough. What is going on? So, like I said, there will be things that will happen that will kind of be like, hey, this might be for you type of thing. And I started to share my experiences with people that I was in relationship with. So I remember talking to one of my older brothers, like, hey, I know that you and your wife, kind of have a similar story. What should I do in this situation? Now, I never told anybody that I felt like this was my husband. Keep that in mind. I will always just go to people and say, not everybody, but the few people I was in relationship with, I will go to them and say, hey, I'm having these type of experiences, and am I crazy? Does this happen? I feel like a witch. I feel like I'm crazy. I just feel like I'm going through so much mentally. Like, what do I do? And so people would advise. So it kind of progressed to, exchanging numbers. And we had one conversation on the phone, and that was like that. But there was a lot of like flirting. There was some flirting, just different experiences that was like, oh my God, like, you know, I like him. He might be interested in me too. Like, I remember one time I was dressed. Okay, the girl was dressed. Now, I always had a particular type of body, a cute little body, like a cute little body for my frame. Like, I'm short, petite, got hips, curves, stuff like that. So I remember one time being on my way to the bathroom, and he didn't know I saw, but I had on like this cute emerald dress. I had it on yesterday, and like some thigh high boots, velvet boots, had like a little bob. It was cute. And I was on my way to the washroom, and I saw that I caught his attention, but he didn't see him. And I remember going down to the bathroom and being like, oh my God, because I didn't think I was his type, and I'm not. I won't say I'm not his type, I'm not his preference. People have preferences, but I can tell he was physically attracted. So I remember being like, okay, God, well, he might think I'm cute. From that reaction, he might be feeling your girl, right? At this time, he's very single, right? And then he started going back with some girl he was with like from years ago. But throughout the whole thing, right? Throughout the whole scenario, I was talking to God the entire time. And in talking to God, I would talk to God about like how crazy I felt, how impossible it felt. But I also spent a lot of time praying for him. And I think in praying for him, God would like show me things that I had no way of knowing. So everything, like the way that the whole story played out, it didn't play out the way I thought, but it played out the way that I saw it played out. I would see a lot of things before it happened. Like, I remember I took a break off of social media. And I remember one Sunday I was watching a football game, and I just so happened to look up in the corner, and I saw a vision of him like proposing to his ex girlfriend. And I remember being like, he's going to propose. And I turned around and I kept watching the game. The next day, somebody that we both knew shared with me, like, did you see like he proposed? And I was just like, oh no, I haven't been on social media. I didn't see that, but I had a vision yesterday that he was proposing. Crazy. So everything that happened down to, I remember at one point at the end, toward the end, I started seeing like the face of the person that he's married to today. And I kept seeing her face, and I would be like, why am I like, why do I keep seeing her face? Um, and all I know was, I went to New York City one weekend, came back, and they were together. And so that's the story. Now, here's what here's what here's the outcome for me. So it didn't devastate me, right? In the sense that, oh my God, that's my man type of thing. It wasn't like that. It just kind of like, it frightened me in the sense that, oh my God, I missed. And not missed like, oh, I missed my chance, I missed my opportunity. It was like, oh my God, I lied, right? And I didn't say it to myself, right? I didn't tell me like, oh, that's your husband. But it kind of made me feel like I can't trust myself. Like, I mislead me, I deceive myself. You know, I'm a lie, maybe even a witch. I remember sitting down with my brother saying, hey, does this make me a witch? Like, am I in divination? Am I hearing like, is the devil talking to me and I'm actually listening to him? Like, what is going on? Like everything, I seen everything, but and I remember him telling me like, no, this doesn't make you a witch. You know, you're not like in divination. Like, no, like people have a right to choose. I remember talking to God. I remember going to God and saying, God, oh my God, like what else have I lied about? Like, I don't trust my gift. I've been here from God my entire life, people. I've seen national crises before they've happened. Like the Lord, I saw my father's death before he passed away. I've been seeing and hearing from God my entire life. So even though everything I heard and I saw from God, it actually happened the way I saw it, I told God, Lord, this makes me, now I don't trust my gift. I don't trust my ability to hear from you. And that was the first time the Lord told me, well, you were never supposed to trust your gift more than you trust me. That that lesson is the reason why I fear God so much with the prophetic. And it's also the reason why I have so much grace toward prophets because I am a prophet myself, but also it taught me that you can hear God your whole life and still get it wrong. And it doesn't make you a false prophet. It doesn't make you a liar. It doesn't mean that you don't hear God. It just means that you're human. And there are a lot of different factors in being human. Like it's not as black and white as we think it is. Like they're very different. There are other factors into how prophets even receive information from God, but that's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. Okay. But so after that, I had to pick up the pieces within myself. Okay. And it was a process. It was extremely humiliating. It was extremely embarrassing. Even though none of the other parties, not necessarily involved, but nobody else knew but the people that I share with. And none of them condemned me. Nobody was like, oh, yeah, you crazy. Like, nobody, like, everybody was still kind of like, yeah, God does everything well, but you're not crazy. Like you're not crazy. You're not a witch. Like it's not what you think it is. And I'll tell you, there were so many experiences. Like I remember being on a fast and um on the fast, the host of the fast is a prophet. And so and that could mean many things to many people, but I know she's credible. But on the call, she was like, yeah, there are two women on this call who, during the fast, God showed you, who you would be with. Um, and you think you're crazy, but God says that you see what you see. Like you're not crazy, you're not making it up, like you see what you see. And I was just like, oh my God. I don't know. And I remember one time being in class and I'm just kind of playing with the idea, like, oh my God, I didn't see him today. Then I would go out. I remember going out of class and turning to the left and looking down the hallway, and there he was. And it would just be stuff that was like, okay, God, like you really playing. Like, please don't do this. Just a lot of things, a lot of different things that occurred. Um, but it was definitely it was interesting. Like I've never lived through anything like that in my entire life, but I'm glad I did. Um, I'm glad I did. So when when they went public, about their relationship and everything, um, it was hard to live through because I felt so ashamed. Um, and then she hated me, baby. I don't even know how. I don't know. I have no idea how she ended up even like knowing that me and him had some type of interest in each other at some point. But when I tell you, Shorty don't like me, now she'll smile in my face. Okay. She will smile in my face. She wants to be around me, close to me, every chance she can get, baby. But when I say despise me, Shorty had to see me coming. Like I can tell you how many times she saw me and would roll her eyes. Now I can see all of this. She don't know I can see her rolling her eyes and just everything, just extremely uncomfortable when I come around. I don't know, right? But She wasn't even my problem. Like I didn't have a problem with her. I didn't have a problem with none of it. I think like the battle was me like just recovering. Like it's interesting how you have to like emotionally detach from someone that you've never even been with. And I told y'all I'm putting myself out here because I know it's happening. I know it's happening. You'll have them other women who will put women down for stuff like this, but you don't have to be ashamed of having to emotionally detach yourself from somebody you were never in a relationship with because it happens. And it doesn't just happen to women. I believe it happens to men too, but these are things that we're just not talking about. But you don't have to be ashamed. We are all human. Everybody, we are human beings. We're human. So I'm gonna tell you how I felt, okay, how I recovered. I think initially I felt like, oh my God, like she's better than me. Now, is she better than me? She's not. And I'm not shaming her, but she's not better. I think I learned a lot of things about her that kind of made me feel like, hmm, 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 to each his own, right? Especially like the way she responds to me, I'm just kind of like, but okay. But I would say yeah, it was humiliating. It was very shameful for me. But it taught me a lot of things. Even though there were some things, even though throughout the process, I felt like it was impossible because I disqualified myself. So that's the first thing. Um, I had a very distorted perception of my own self. I was never ready for marriage. I wasn't ready for the grown up, whatever grown ups do. For that, like to be a wife, and I didn't want that. I just wanted to meet somebody that I could build a genuine friendship with that could grow into a I wanted to take my time. Um, so that was another thing. And then there were also things about him that I would kind of like come up against that would be like, I don't know if I want to actually be with somebody like that or be with somebody who responds like that. There were just things that were just kind of like, I don't know. I don't really know that this is God because I don't like that. That's going to be a problem for me, type of thing. So here's what I learned. So let's get into what I did learn. Number one, I learned that hmm, what you should never do when it comes to like interest, right? Never put your reliance on chemistry. Don't put your reliance on like flirtation. Like never hear anything that a man is not saying to you. And this might be common sense. At the time I was very young, so it wasn't necessarily common sense, right? I know now, but and I know then I probably would have like a different, like I would have handled myself a different way. But I can tell this is not common sense because people do it. Don't hear anything that a person is not saying to you. And women do this a lot. Like, oh, did he say that? No, but I heard that, right? Don't hear nothing somebody's not saying. And it can be tricky because a man can also say, he can express interest in you and still maneuver and kind of have just show you the complete opposite in his actions. So it's tricky. Like you really just gotta be like, you gotta be smart, smarter than these men. Okay. But I would say don't, if you think somebody's your husband, don't communicate or like hear something that a man is not saying. Unless a man comes to you and directly expresses interest in you, like, hey, I like you, I would like to get to know you. Don't assume that because you're flirting with each other or because they seem to express like a physical attraction to you. Don't take those things that we like to grab a hold to as like interest necessarily. Like even if he is attracted to you, don't be like, oh girl, he liked me, unless he comes and says like, hey, I want to get to know you, and he shows like some intention behind that. Then don't don't like grab a hold to that. Don't make it like a concrete thing because it can go another way. Another thing that I learned is, that would kind of be like number one. But I'm gonna say this. What I should have not done was tell people. And now I'm not saying that anybody I told went and like told and like sabotage the whole thing. I'm not saying that. And I never went to anyone and said, hey, God said this is my husband. I never did that. I would always go to people, and not people, but there were like specific people that I was in relationship with that I trusted. And I still believe to this day that they protect and they cover me. But I would sit down with people that I trust and I would just share my experience. And it will always be like, hey, this is happening. This happened this day. And one day I was doing this and this happened. And am I crazy? It was just always like, hey, this is happening to me. Is this strange? Like, this is strange for me. What should I do? How should I respond? And people would just say pray. And then at the time, there were like a couple of other people who were having like some of the same experiences. Um, but they would always just be like, pray, yeah, this is crazy. Like, that's so weird, da da da. Um, wow, that is different. Like, yeah, you can't make this stuff up, type of thing. But I would just like tell the story. But I never told anyone that I believe that this was my husband because I was afraid. I was afraid to say it. And I was afraid to say it because I didn't think I was this type. I disqualified myself because of where I was in my life. There were just so many variables. I was just afraid. I thought it was impossible. Like, but this is what's going on in my life. It was just very confusing. So that's another thing I would have done differently. Um, yeah, another thing I would have done differently was I would have like not thank you, Lord. I subconsciously tried to make something that it was not because of all of these things that were like happening. So I overdid my part. I would reach out, check on, how we do. I'm gonna just check on him, see how you doing. I'm gonna check on him, see if he had lunch. I'm gonna just check on him. We check on him. We check on him. Put the phone down. Don't text him. Don't call and see how he's doing. Don't do it. Don't do it. I didn't. I would just do a lot of like checking on him. I'm gonna just encourage him. Don't do it. Don't do it. You throw a vibe, and then if he throw a vibe right back, then you go from there. But what we do, because I know it's happening. I know it's happening. We check on, we initiate, and we over initiate. We keep checking. We keep the conversation alive, right? We keep it going. Don't do it. Don't keep it going. Don't check, right? Don't check. Like I said, throw a vibe and see if he throw it back. These are just things that I would do differently. Okay. All right. So if you are, if I am talking to someone who feels like right now you highly believe, right? You are 100% sure that God has showed you who your husband is. I'm going to tell you, number one, that it is possible. I know some success stories. I do. I do. I know a couple, at least two people that have had an experience where God showed them their husband and they're married to the person that God showed them they would be with. So it can happen. The second thing I want to say is if you believe that God showed you your husband, number two, don't tell him. Don't tell, try not to tell nobody. Don't tell him. Okay. Don't tell him until the morning after the honeymoon. Okay. That first night, y'all go back to, whatever hotel or whatever. You have sex or you don't. But when that man is officially your husband, then you can tell him, like, babe, I never told you this, but I want to tell you how God told me. I knew I was going to marry you. Right. Then you share with him because what are you going to do now? Worst case scenario is he say, man, God showed me you was my wife. That's crazy. Right. Y'all share y'all story. But if y'all not dating, the man don't know you. He hasn't expressed any type of interest in you. And even after he does, just don't tell him at all. Like, don't be that person that's like, God showed me you was my husband. Can I tell you how many men have come to me and have told me that God has showed them that I was their wife? I have been cussed out. I've been called a lesbian. I've been called all type of things because I would literally look at a guy and be like, "No, I'm not your wife. I'm sorry. We don't even know each other. So how do you know I'm your wife?" Right? I would just be like, Like I've never been the type of person to just say stuff just to say it. I've had men be like, "Oh, I love you," and I've been like, "Okay, you sure? Do you? No, we don't even you love me? Okay, we'll see." Right? Don't do that. Um, if you feel like this man is your husband, the third thing, right? Because that was two, right? The third thing is the third thing you want to do is pray. You should just be praying in general. Like you should have a general prayer life. But the third thing you do is pray, right? Number one, what was number one? What was number one? I don't remember. Okay. I don't know. No idea. Anyway, what you want to do, right? If you you believe that the Lord showed you that somebody is your husband, oh, believe that it's possible. Okay, it can happen. But two, you also want to not tell him. But thirdly, you want to pray. You should be praying anyway. You should have a very general prayer life, right? But you definitely want to pray. Not only do you want to go back to three, that's what I was doing. You don't want to tell him, but you want to tell as little people as possible. Like, don't try not to tell nobody but God, okay? Pray, 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 pray. So you want to pray. And in praying, the fourth thing you want to do that coincides with prayer is you want to build an altar. I'm going to tell you what it looks. I'm going to make it real. Look, after this video, you're going to have all the steps. You understand? Building an altar, right, is something that you do in prayer. What does that look like? I tell women this all the time. This is the point I'm telling. Here's what you do. At the very moment you see a guy and you're like, oh, girl, he fine. Oh, and he loved the Lord. Look at him lifting his hands. Yes, give him praise, boo. Ooh, and he can teach, girl. Ooh, girl. Oh, and he got a good job. Oh, baby, girl. And he's single. Yeah, yes, baby. I'm about to set up that next week, honey. Yes, because this one right here, this one's mine. The moment where somebody catches your attention to a point where you like them, the first thing you want to do is go to God and you say, God, you know, brother so and so, because y'all love to say brother, sister, brother. I've never called any man that I was attracted to my brother. That's just another, I don't do that. If I'm attracted to you, it's first name basis, nickname, or something, but I'm not gonna call you bro. I'm not doing that. Brother Malcolm, no. No, no. I only call my brothers brother. If you find and you got a potential to be anything romantic to me, I'm not broing you up. I'm gonna be girl. You see him? Mm-hmm. Right? Not bro. But anyway, you go to God and you say, Lord, this guy, I've been he been looking real good lately. Okay. And I feel like he loves you. I feel like he's this type of man. And I think I like him. I think I like him. I like the way he smells. He be coming to church smelling. Um, but I like him. I have an interest in him. But I also don't know him. But God, you know him. So, Lord, because he is your son, he is your child, because you know him. God, I am building an altar right now, and I am placing him on the altar. Placing, first of all, building an altar, right, helps you go through life like this, hand open, right? I love to tell the Lord, Lord, there's nothing in my life that is off limits to you. This will help you avoid idols. This will help you avoid idol worship, right? Because when you go through life like this, you're not holding anything like this. Never go through life with your hand like this. It'll keep you broke. It'll keep you stagnant, right? There's no room for anything to get in, and there's also nothing coming out. When you go through life like this, anything that God wants, He can have because your hand is already ready in a position to give and also to receive. So, building an altar helps you put everything before God so that at any moment, if He wants to ask for it, it won't devastate you to give it away. I have dealt with a lot of loss in my life. At the age of like 5 or 6, I lost my father. That was my first introduction to how real life can be. I remember being a little girl, and my mom would say, I would ask, like, why my father had to be dead, right? I would just ask. And my mom would, I remember my mom teaching me, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. That was my first lesson. My first introduction to loss was losing my father. My first life lesson was the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. He is still worthy of praise. No matter what you get and no matter what you lose, God is worthy. He is worthy to be praised at the end of the day because there's nothing that the Lord takes from you that He won't give back to you. I have dealt with a lot of loss, losing friends. So building an altar is a custom to me because I've learned that, man, life comes at you hard, fast. It don't care about your age. It don't care about nothing. It'll come to you. But loss is a part of life. You're going to lose money. You're going to get money. You're going to lose people. People going to come back. Like it's all a part of life. Loss is a part of life. But if you take on an approach that, hey, nothing in life is really mine, God. It all comes from you anyway. That'll keep you from being devastated when loss happens because it will. It will. The old folks say, keep living. You live long enough, you're going to experience loss in one way or another. It's just part of life. But building an altar will also help you be sober. So I tell people if you're dating, you got a crush, you're in a relationship with someone, put that man on the altar, put that girlfriend on the altar, put that relationship on an altar, put those kids on the altar, put your job on, put everything. Make it a habit of giving everything that you have to the Lord. Because at the moment that He sees that you love that thing more than you love Him, oh, He's going to ask you for it. And then if you don't want to give it up willingly, the Lord will take it. Do you hear me? He'll take it. He'll definitely snatch it right up under you. I'm telling you, He'll do it. So you want to train yourself. You want to make yourself accustomed to receiving freely and giving freely, especially to the Lord. So build an altar. Pray. Believe it's possible. Pray. Wait, don't tell Him and don't tell nobody. Pray, build an altar, journal, do everything that you need to do. But also, don't be married to an outcome. Okay. You feel like this man is specifically like himself. You feel like that is your husband. Don't be married to an outcome. Have a desire, but don't be so committed to it being him. Because at the moment that you commit to him and he has committed to you, when he makes a different type of commitment, okay, when he makes a commitment to a different person, it will devastate you when you're committed to an outcome. Don't be committed to a particular outcome. Just express your desire to the Lord because He'll give you the desires of your heart. So if it's like, oh God, that's the type of man I can admire those characteristics in a man. Like I would like to be with somebody like that, right? Keep it very much like open-ended, so that when it goes a different way, or if it goes a different way, you're not devastated because you had an expectation. Okay? Expectation is always going to bring room for disappointment. It's just the risk that you make in anything in life. So that'll help you like govern your expectations in a more healthier way, a more sober way. All right. And then the last thing you want to do is remember that everybody, well, not the last thing before the last thing, because I got one more. The next thing you want to do is remember that everyone has free will. God gave us the beautiful option. Everybody got options, right? Let's say he was feeling you. Let's say he was feeling you. Y'all went out on a couple of dates. He expressed that he actually likes you, want to get to know you, but he changed his mind. He changed his mind. He's allowed to change his mind, just like you are allowed to change your mind. Again, that's just a part of life. Okay. People can change their mind. You can change your mind. That's a part of having free will. One person that really helped me through that process was listening to Dr. Miles Monroe. He has very sober, very practical teaching about the process of a man finding a wife, a wife choosing a husband, because you can choose. Okay. You are not without choice. You can make a decision. All right. One of the things that he says is that, God will put man in the garden or the field, and he'll put a woman in front of him and just see what he's going to do. He gives him the option to choose. So, like Boaz and Ruth, right, that we hear so much about, Ruth was not the only woman working in Boaz's field. There were women there before she got there. There were women there after he chose Ruth, but she wasn't the only one. So, but he chose Ruth. He made a decision. He chose Ruth. Ruth chose her. It could have went a different way for either one of them, right? So remember that everybody has free will, including you. And the last thing I want to say is, let's say the guy you feel like the Lord said was your husband, he, goes in a different direction. Always bless and not curse. So don't make a villain out of the person that they decided to, move forward with. Don't villainize them and don't demonize them. Don't get into juju, witchcraft, or whatever else y'all do. Don't burn no sage. Don't do no spells. Just don't do that. If they decide to make a villain out of you, then you let that be that. Okay? You be the villain, honey. Be the villain. Be a fine villain, honey. Because you're going to be the villain in somebody's story. Okay? I'm telling you. But always bless. Bless, bless, bless. Bless and never curse. Bless. Hold your head up high. Don't be ashamed. Don't be messy. If she wants to be messy, let her be messy. If you want to be messy, let him be messy, right? You let people do whatever, but you make sure that your posture is always one of blessing. You want to make sure that your heart is always right before the Lord and with other people. Make as much peace, keep as much peace with people as you possibly can. There are some circumstances where you can't, but don't villainize and don't demonize him or her. Don't do it. Bless them, because you know that all things work together for good to them who love the Lord and who are called according to his purpose. It's okay. Girl, I'm gonna tell you what I learned from just moving, okay? Like I learned in New York City specifically, like there are so many men in New York and they're beautiful men, honey. First of all, it's men everywhere, baby. Don't believe the hype, honey. There are men all over this world. On TikTok alone, but there are men everywhere. So you're not like, it's not like the end of the world. You know what I mean? So don't demonize somebody, honey. Just learn what you learn and keep it moving. That's what you do. But be encouraged, be encouraged. I'm encouraged. I'm not like, number one, I'm not a hater, honey. Look at me. I mean, look, look at me. Okay. Look at me. Do I need to hate? I don't. Okay. Boop. I don't. Like, it's fine. Like, it really is fine. Um, but be encouraged. Like, it's hard. It really is. It's slim pickings out here. I've had so many conversations with the Lord about like the quality of men, like some of the stuff that we have to deal with dating on both sides, men to women, women to men. It's tough. But just know that God has your best interest at heart, and the Lord, he gives good gifts. He gives great gifts. And nothing is wasted with God. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. This story is going to be somebody else's lesson. I'm telling you. I'm okay. It ain't nothing nobody can say. If either one of them were to watch this video and listen, what are you going to say? What can anybody say? You can't say anything. You can't say nothing to me. You can't say anything. You cannot say nothing. There's some other stuff I could say that I'm just not going to say. But nobody can say anything, you know? It's a part, it's a story. We're all human. Everybody has a story that is being that's written. It's already in your book. You know, you just living it out, right? Be encouraged. You know, God has a plan, even concerning like your relationship, your family, your love life. The Lord promised me a consistent love. He promised me that He would blow on my love life. I'm okay. There's nothing I need. There's nothing I'm wanting for. I'm good over here. I promise you. I'm not gonna get into the details of my love life, but I'm good. I'm good. And so you just have to know that you're in good hands when you put your life in the hands of the Lord. You know, let the Lord write your love story. Don't force anything. Don't try to make anything happen. You know, trust God, even with your love life. Don't be so, you know, so committed to a timeline. You know, if you're 65 right now and you happen to see this video and you're not married yet and you want to be married, as long as you are not dead, right? As long as you are still alive, God can do what He said He was going to do, period. And don't let anybody, don't let the devil, don't let your body, don't let society, don't let family, don't let anyone or anything tell you anything different. You believe God to the very end because He will not disappoint. God knows exactly what He's doing. He does. So I pray that, you know, what I've learned from this experience, that it will bless you, that it will encourage you, that you can learn from it. But you're not crazy. You are not crazy. Okay. So until then, be encouraged, you know, continue to pray, continue to meet with God about the things in your heart, about what's going on, about the things that you're seeing, you know, and just be open. Be open. Put your trust in God more than man. Okay. All right. God bless you all. If I have something else, you know, I'll come on and share. But until next time.